Torah guardian, speaking the absolute truth. Torah nation.
Good evening, I'm Kristen Welker in for Lester. We begin tonight with the new front in the war on COVID-19. That new, more contagious strain of the virus, first identified in Britain, has now been found in 2 U.S. states.
Shalom, 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 Yahshua, Yahuah. Grafted in Gentiles into the body of the Mashiach. Listen, we're at it again. Listening to none other than Hezekiah. The song is entitled Sorrow. And I don't own the rights to this music. I have been called by Yahuah to let you know that you must receive his witness. You must receive Yahusha Ha'Mashiach. You have to be born again of the water and of the Ruach Ha'Qodesh. You must accept his sacrifice as the high priest on your behalf. You must receive it. There is no other method, there is no other way to be established in Yahuwah's kingdom, to be his people. Yahuah, I pray right now in the name of Yahusha Ha'Mashiach that you would take the reins of my lips and the reins of my tongue and reign. I pray right now in the name of Yahusha Ha'Mashiach that this witness would come forth in power. Yahuah, the word that you gave Yahusha, being made the Torah, the word made flesh, he gave to Yahukanan, and Yahukanan recorded it for this day, for this hour, in order that we who have waken up may be restorable to your kingdom, having received the witness of Yahusha Ha'Mashiach. Yahuah, I pray that they would receive this witness. I pray that no one would stumble, no one would be turned out of the way, no one come up lame, Yahuah. I pray that the word of truth would manifest in them, quicken them, make them alive, Yahuah. I'm doing what you called me to do. Yahuah, I'm being relentless. Yahuah, I'm being relentless. In the name of Yahusha Ha'Mashiach. Honor, Yahuah, that which I've committed unto you. Yahuah, let the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be acceptable in thy sight. In the name of Yahusha Ha'Mashiach, I pray. Listen. Yahuah sent Yahusha to establish his kingdom, his dominion in the earth. And you have to understand that in the Ruach Ha'Qodesh, that this witness is the only way to be established in his kingdom. You must receive the witness. You must receive the Ruach Ha'Qodesh, the water and the blood. You must be born again. And again, brew, this is not what you've seen in Christianity. This is not that. This is not what you have come out of. This is not that. These things are totally separate. Yes, they took our Basora. Yes, they took our renewed covenant. They took the Torah. Yes, they took it and they profaned it. Yes, they profaned it with this Jesus and with this Lord and this God. They profaned it. They went out conquering and killing and murdering and raping. They went out molesting in the name of this Jesus. They went out turning people to this L. They did it to our ancestors. But being born again is not that. Being born again is to be established in the witness of Yahusha Ha'Mashiach. And having received his Ruach Ha'Qodesh, now you are become identifiable to Yahuah. You are in, he is in you. His Ruach in Yahusha and Yahuah are now in you. They live, they remain, they continue, they dwell in you. As long as you remain and continue and dwell in them. Listen, bro. Listen. You have to receive this witness. You have to receive this witness. You have to receive this witness. There is no other way. There is no other way to Yeshua. There is no other way to turn. You know, there's no other way to turn. In order to turn, you have to go through the high priest. The high priest was that mechanism that enforced Torah, right? There was that mechanism that Yahuah had established that would represent him in the earth, but they failed miserably. The people became like them, miserably failed. That's why the scriptures declare that like people, like priests, they failed miserably. Listen, and you have to understand that this witness that is in Yahusha Ha'Mashiach was established for you. Yahusha knew that the world would become darkened. He knew that after the apostles and the prophets, after the apostles and this Besorah had went out to be preached, it would become dark. He knew that men would forget wisdom, right? But what he did was he recorded what he had brought forth in the Besorahs, in the Act of the Apostles, in Romans, in Corinthians, in Thessalonians, right? In Colossians, in Galatians, right? He established in Hebrews, in James, in John 1, 2, 3, and the revelation of John. That which we need to understand in Emunah, because it had become darkened. It had become darkened. It had become darkened. It had become darkened. We had to receive this witness. He made it impossible for us to be established. Yes, they took it. Yes, they seized it. Yes, they kept all the records of it. Yes, they were gathered and collected. Yes. And they took it and ran with it into the four corners of the earth, profaning the name. But now, bro, Yahuah has roused you up. Now, bro, Yahuah has roused you up. Now you have to turn to the scepter of Yahusha. Now you have to turn to the lawgiver, Yahusha, in order to receive this Yeshua. Listen, we are in Hebrews, Paul's letter to the Hebrews. And again, as I told you before, I tell you again, Paul loved his brethren. Paul was devoted to the Hebrews, to his own demise at times, right? He was so devoted, to the point where he disobeyed the Ruach Ha'Qodesh just to go to Jerusalem to let them know what he was doing and what was being accomplished amongst the Gentiles. And what it cost him was his time. His time. He was in prison for 3 years. It cost him his time. Right? He disobeyed Yahuah. He disobeyed Yahusha. Right? And Yahuah knows that I do not want to make the mistake that Shaul made. I want to obey when I hear the Ruach Ha'Qodesh. Right? I want to obey all the time when the Ruach Ha'Qodesh leads me to do something. Listen. You gotta receive the witness. Shaul received the witness. He cared about his brethren. He cared about Hebrews. But listen, he's writing to you now. He's trying to get you to understand how Hamashiach and Yahusha were one and the same. How Mashiach in the original covenant was Yahusha. They are one and the same. He is showing you through the Melchizedek priesthood. He's showing you through Psalms, the book of Psalms. It's being verified to you in Ezekiel and how Yahuah is speaking in Hosea. Hebrew. You need to understand that Yahuah has been speaking to you. Now, Hebrews, the first chapter, and I'm going through these quickly because, again, I think it's important to go through them. And, for some, it's like, okay, well, we already heard this, we know this, we heard this, we know this. Listen, faith cometh by hearing, hearing by the word of Yahuah. Listen, this is what Yahuah has always done with me, right? He's always had me go over and over, right? Because faith cometh by hearing. I understood that early, right? Now, in Hebrews 1:1, it says, Elohiym at sundry times and in different manners spake in time past to our fathers by the prophets, and hath in these last days spoken to us by his Son, whom he has appointed heir over all things, by whom also he made the worlds. Right? So we have already established that Yahuah has already spoken in times past by the prophets, and our fathers refused to hear him. Yahuah spoke to our fathers by the prophets, and our fathers refused to hear them. Right? They refused to hear and obey the prophets the majority of the time. Because the majority of the time Yahuah was correcting them for their behavior. He spoke to us by the prophets. But in these last days, right? These last days, we are in the last days. And in Paul's time, Paul had already knew that it was going to become darkened in these last days. Right? He has spoken unto us by his Son, Yahusha Ha'Mashiach, whom he has made heir over all things. When Yahusha came into the earth as the Torah of Yahuah, the Word made flesh, Yahuah baptized him, and Yahuah put his Ruach Ha'Qodesh in him without measure. Yahusha was the son of Yahuah. And listen, sometimes I want you to know, I listen to these videos, right, the next day. And sometimes I say Yahuah and Yahusha, and it may confuse people. For me, they're one and the same. They're one. I mean, there's no separating the two. So, though I understand Yahuah is the Father and Yahusha is the Son, and I understand the Ruach Ha'Qodesh is the operative power and demonstration of Yahuah, I recognize that they are all one. These three, Yahuah Abba, the Word, Yahusha, and the Ruach Ha'Qodesh, these three are in agreement. They're never out of agreement. And these three are one, right? So, every now and then you'll hear me use their names interchangeably, but you who recognize that Yahuah is Yahuah and Yahusha is Yahusha will understand what I mean, right? But listen, understand this, right? They're one. They're one. They're one. Yahusha came forth as the Word of Yahuah, right? Yahuah put his Ruach HaQodesh in him. He had Yahuah's Ruach without measure. He had Yahuah's Ruach, the Ruach HaQodesh, without measure, right? So we have Yahusha, who is made heir over all things. Yahuah has set his approval on him. He said, "This is my beloved Son." Yahuah witnessed to Yahusha being his beloved Son in the Shamayim. He declared it at the time in which Yahusha received the Ruach HaQodesh and he began to come up out of the water. Yahuah said in Mark, I think it is Mark, the first chapter, and the 11th verse, he says, "And there came a voice from the heavens, the Shamayim, saying, Thou art my beloved Son, in whom I am well pleased." So Yahuah was obedient to baptism, to the ceremonial cleansing, to the washing. He was obedient to receiving the Ruach HaQodesh, the appointment, the anointment of Yahuah without measure, right? And he was obedient unto the death of the cross, being that sacrifice that was raised by the power of the Ruach HaQodesh to enter into the Shamayim, to enter into the tabernacle, to the holies and the most holies and the holies of holies, right? To offer up his own blood as an atonement for sin. Yahuah has spoken in these days by Yahusha Ha'Mashiach. He has spoken verbally, right, by Yahusha Ha'Mashiach. Paul had conversations with Yahusha Ha'Mashiach, who appeared before him. He appeared before Paul when he was in prison. He said, Paul, be of good cheer, because you know you didn't listen. I'm still going to use you, because you got to testify of me in Rome, right? So be of good cheer. You're going to sit here because you disobeyed, right? You're going to go through Felix, and then Felix is going to pass you to Festus, and Festus is going to pass you to Agrippa, and they all going to know that you ain't do nothing wrong, but because you decided that you were a Roman citizen, right? You are going to Rome. And once you got to Rome, he didn't get before get before Caesar right away. Paul was on house arrest in Rome. All because he didn't listen to the Ruach HaQodesh. So, Yahusha is the son of Elohiym. And Yahusha is speaking now, right? Hebrews 2, right? He said, therefore we must give the most earnest heed to the things which we have heard, lest any time we should let them slip. Now, Paul is referencing, right, Hebrews 1, how Yahuwah was made low. Yahusha was made lower than the angels, but was crowned with glory and honor, right? He says, listen, who being the brightness of his glory, Yahusha, being the brightness of Yahuwah's glory, the expressed image of his person, right? Yahuwah said concerning man, let us make man in our image, our expressed image, in our likeness. Yahusha was who was the brightness of his glory, the expressed image of his person, right? Adam and Ava were the builders of Yahuwah's kingdom on the Eretz. They had the likeness and they had the Ruach HaQodesh to do it, right? But you know what happened, right? So Yahusha. So when Paul was referencing what they had learned, he was referencing what he had explained to them in reference to them explaining to them in reference to Yahusha being the brightness of his image. How Yahusha, for unto which of the angels did Yahuwah say at any time, you are my son? Yahuwah never declared his sonship to anyone but Yahusha. He never declared it to the angels, right? He never said to the angels that they were his son. He says, I've begotten thee, Yahuwah concerning Yahusha, declared to be the son of Elohiym. This day have I begotten thee, right? Where do we learn this? What did he say this at? He said this in Psalms concerning Yahusha Ha'Mashiach, where his witness can be found, where Yahusha testified. He said, listen, yet have I set my king upon my holy hill of Zion. I will declare a decree. I, Yahuwah, have said unto me, Yahusha, thou art my son, right? This day have I begotten thee. Yahusha was the son of Elohiym. It is declared. He's never said that to an angel. He's never said that to anyone other than Yahusha. Now, Adam and Ava were sons of Elohiym, daughters, right? Because they had his Ruach. They were in his image, right? They were in his image. But once that image fell, right? They were no longer in his image, right? I mean, they still look the same, right? But that which made them set apart, the Ruach Ha'Qodesh was no longer there. That was no longer available to them, right? So his son was in fact the only begotten of the Father. Now, Adam and Havah were created from the dust of the earth. They were sons and daughters, but they were created from the dust of the earth. Yahusha was the only begotten. Yahusha was the result of a seed and an egg that Yahuah planted in Mary. Right? He did not take Mary's egg. He planted in Mary a seed and a sperm that incubated. Right? Because he couldn't be with sin. And if you understand how babies are born or how they grow, it is what I understand is that the blood of the mother does not make its way into the fetus or into the child, right? So what you have is Yahusha not having been affected or tainted by sin, because the life of the flesh is in the blood. Yahusha was established in Yahuah. All right, so let's go on. Hebrews. So we understand what Paul's talking about when he says in that second chapter, therefore we ought to give the most earnest heed to the things that we've heard, the things that I've just spoken to you concerning Yahusha Ha'Mashiach, but the things that the prophets have spoken unto our fathers. We need to give heed. We need to understand that Yahuah is speaking now through his son Yahusha, right? Yahusha, who is the heir of all things. You have to come through him. He says, for if the word spoken by angels was steadfast, and every transgression and disobedience received justice, listen, you are going to receive justice for your disobedience. The wages of sin is death. The gift of Yahuah is eternal life through Yahusha Ha'Mashiach. That's the gift. That's the gift, eternal life through Yahusha Ha'Mashiach. Listen, you gonna get recompensed. You gonna get justice because Yahuah renders justice. You gonna get recompense of rewards. You gonna get wages for what you have done. Your wages is death. Your wages to be cut off as a branch, right? It withers. The branch is of no value. It's cut off. It's gathered up to be burned. You are like the chaff that's separated from the wheat, right? You are like the thorns and the briars that are burned. Listen. That's the recompense. That's the wage. That's what you getting paid, because you won't receive the witness of Yahusha Ha'Mashiach, right? Now, listen. How shall we escape if we neglect so great a Yeshua? How are you going to escape if you neglect this witness of Yahusha Ha'Mashiach? This Ruach Ha'Qodesh witness. How are you going to escape? Right? Because the only way in is by receiving the witness. The only way in is receiving the earnest of your inheritance. The only way in is through Yahusha Ha'Mashiach. Listen, you ain't going to escape. Yahuah has spoken, and he will not repent. You ain't going to escape. How shall we escape if we neglect so great a Yeshua? Yeshua. Not a Yeshua that just covers your sins. Not a Yeshua that sprinkles blood on you, right? Not a Yeshua that was a shadow. But the Yeshua that is the original priesthood, the order of Melchizedek, who can go before go within the tabernacle, right? Go before Yahuah, the author and the finisher of it all, right? Can go before him. Listen, you have to understand this. Right? By how shall we say we neglect so great a Yeshua, which at the first began to be spoken by Adonai Yahusha, and was confirmed unto us by them that heard him. Listen. Elohiym bearing them witness both with signs and wonders, and with diverse miracles, and with gifts of the Ruach Ha'Qodesh according to his own will. That's what Yahuah did in Yahusha. That's what Yahuah did, bearing witness, both with signs and wonders in the Ruach Ha'Qodesh. These signs shall follow them that believe. In my name they shall cast out devils. In my name they shall speak with tongues. In my name, if they take up serpents, and if they drink any deadly thing, it shall not hurt them. In my name they shall lay hands on the sick, and they shall recover. By signs and wonders. Listen, Yahusha came as a prophet. He came with a greater witness than the prophets. He came with the Torah of truth. He was a bearer of the Torah, the word of Yahuah, right? And he had signs and wonders following his ministry. And then those who received the witness had signs and wonders follow. Signs follow. Listen, that's why in the awakening, we haven't seen this. We haven't seen this. We haven't seen signs and wonders. We haven't seen the signs following, because the awakening is not what the quickening is. It's not what the witness is. It's not. The returning to the land is not the witness. It is not the quickening. Hebrews. You got to understand this. This is about Yahuwah's witness, Yahusha Ha'Mashiach. Okay, chapter 3. He says, wherefore, holy brothers, to partaking of the heavenly callings, you who have taken part in this witness of the heavenly calling, consider the apostle and high priest of your profession, Yahusha Ha'Mashiach. He is the high priest of your profession. Right? Because he is the high priest. He is. He says, who was faithful to him that appointed him, as also Moshe was faithful in all his house. Moshe was faithful to the service of Yahuah that Yahuah gave him. Moshe was faithful in bringing the people the Besorah and the Torah. Or the Torah. Moshe was faithful. Moshe was faithful and giving the people the commandments. Moshe was faithful for 40 years as they rebelled and died in the wilderness, having received the Torah. He was faithful, right? But yet Yahuah told him, listen, you're going to sleep with your fathers. And once you go to sleep with your fathers, these people are going to rise up and go a-whoring after the gods of the strangers of the land. Deuteronomy 31 and 16, I think it is. Deuteronomy 31 and 16. He says, this people will rise up and go a-whoring after the gods of the strangers of the land, right? Whether they go among them and will forsake me and break my covenant which I have made with them. That's what they going to do. That's what the priest's going to do. Priest going to start offering sacrifices to idols. And the people are going to follow them because they're going to be like the priest. Right? That's what's going to happen, Moshe. Right? But see, under this high priest, Yahusha Ha'Mashiach, that ain't going to happen. Because Yahusha Ha'Mashiach doesn't have a consciousness of sin. Right? Yahusha was sinless. Right? Aaron and Moshe's covenant, or Moshe's Aaron's priesthood under Moshe was flawed, right? Actually, Moshe was flawed because he still had a consciousness of sin. But he was a lawgiver, and Yahuah had chosen him to be in the place that he was, and he was faithful to Yahuah. He was faithful. That's why Yahuah at one point, when the people were down there cutting a fool, and Aaron, the high priest, soon to be, was making a calf for them, Yahuah was like, look, I'm ready to destroy this people and establish a nation under you. But Moshe interceded for the people. He said, you don't want to do that, Yahuah, because then the people going to say that, you raised up a people and couldn't keep them. Yahuah told him, go down to them people. Your people. Listen. That priesthood was flawed. Yahusha, he said, for this man was counted worthy of more glory than Moshe. Right? Inasmuch as he who built the house has more honor than the house. Yahusha built this tabernacle in the Shamayim. Yahuah built this tabernacle in the Shamayim. Yahuah established this Melchizedek order that IVRIYM paid tithe into, and that Melchizedek blessed him with bread and wine. Yahuah built this tabernacle, and what he did was he gave Moshe the shadow of it, gave it to them to establish in the earth as a temporary method of covering their sins, because that's all he was going to do, cover it, because it wasn't going to remove the consciousness of it. That's the reason why it was easy for them priests to decide all of a sudden, well, ain't nothing wrong with these elves. Let's offer up idols. Let's offer up sacrifices to them. Flawed, man. The priesthood was flawed. Can you imagine them taking the tabernacle that was made by hands, that was made for Yahuah, and offering idols, offering it up to idols? The priest did it. The priests did it. They did it. Listen, Judas Maccabees, after they had returned back to the land, right, and the Brews became Hellenized Grecians, they turned out the temple and they were offering up sacrifices to idols. Yahusha's temple that they had built and rebuilt. They were flawed. Listen, you can't be established in this witness through the priesthood of Aaron. It's flawed. Let us therefore fear lest a promise being left of entering into his rest, any of you should seem to come short. Listen, there's a rest for the people of Yahuah. But don't allow yourself to become, don't allow yourself to be put in a place where you don't receive the witness, and having received the witness, you turn away from it. Yahuah has made a rest available to you. He has made Shiloh available to you. Unto him, the gathering of the people is going to be. He is going to bring shalom, right? That's the rest. That's entering to the kingdom. That's being translated from death to life. That's putting on immortality. See, we have this treasure in earthen vessels, right? But the rest is going to come when we are changed and he establishes his kingdom in the erects. He's going to establish Wakanda. Not Wakanda in the sense of Wakanda, but it's similar, right? Right? It's kind of what it looks like, right? I mean, it's this supernatural place, right, where everybody just can't gain access. Only those people who have received the witness are going to be in there, right? And they're going to be blessed, and there's going to be a temple, and there's going to be an altar. Everything that's in the Shamayim is going to be in the Eretz, because Yahusha is going to be serving in this kingdom. And we who are changed are going to be Black Panthers. That's a stretch of the imagination, but the idea is Yahusha is the king, right? And we are his soldiers, his subjects, those who are going to be his enforcers, those who are going to carry out his words. Listen, don't let this get away from you, because this rest is what he has always wanted and intended to establish in the Eretz. Adam and Havah had an opportunity to see the fulfillment of this. He's talking about in the 5th chapter the high priest that had taken from among men pertaining to things of Elohiym, how they had infirmities, right? And how no man could take this honor unto himself, but he that is called of Elohiym, as of Aaron. Bro, how you going to return to Yahuah? Yeah, you know who you are, but how you going to turn to Yahuah? You got to go through the high priest. He's got to offer a sacrifice. He's got to go into the holies of holies. He's got to operate. He's got to offer a sacrifice for himself. And then offer a sacrifice for you going into holies of holies. But there is no holies of holies. It's decayed. It's faded away. Because Yahuwah has replaced it with Yahusha's witness, the Melchizedek order. Because it was fallible. Aaron's priesthood was fallible. It was failed. Fallible? Yeah, fallible. Failed. Right? He says, so also Ha'Mashiach, Yahusha, Ha'Mashiach, glorified not himself to be made a high priest, but he that saith unto him, thou art my son, this day have I begotten thee. Right? He said that in Psalms, the 2nd chapter, the 7th verse. I will declare a decree. Yahuwah have said unto me, thou art my son, this day have I begotten thee. That's the original covenant. Come on, bro. Come on. I'm giving you these precepts. He says, but he said unto them, he said unto him, thou art my son, and this day have I begotten thee. Right? He hasn't said that concerning any angel. He hasn't said that concerning anybody else except Mahashiach. Yahusha, Hamashiach. He said, he saideth also in another place, Psalms 110, thou art forever after the order of Melchizedek. Thou a priest forever after the order of Melchizedek. He said that in the 110th division of Psalms. He says, Yahuwah, right, said unto Yahusha, sit thou at my right hand till I make thine enemies thy footstool. Sit thou at my right hand till I make thy enemies thy footstool. He says, listen, in the 4th verse, Yahuwah has sworn and will not repent. Right? Yahuwah has made an oath concerning his word, concerning Yahusha, that he is a priest forever after the order of Melchizedek. Hebrew. who in the days of his flesh, when he had offered up prayers and supplication with strong cryings and tears unto him that was able to save him from death, and was heard, and that he feared, though he were a son, he learned obedience by the things he suffered. Yahusha didn't want to die, but he obeyed Yahuah. In his flesh, he didn't want to die. He didn't want to suffer, right? But he obeyed Yahuwah's command. He learned obedience through the things that he suffered. Chapter 6. Chapter 6. He says, therefore, leaving the principles of the doctrine of Hamashiach, right? Because we should be past that. We should be past the laying on, we should be past, let us go on to perfection, not laying again the foundation to repentance. Listen, we who have received the witness of Yahusha Ha'Mashiach shouldn't be laying the foundation to repentance, because, you know, that's something that you laid, right? That's something that you developed in. That's something you put together, right? By your continual acts of disobedience. Hence, you have to repent again because you continue in sin. That's why Shaul says, shall we continue in sin that grace may abound? He said, no. Yahuah forbid. How shall we who have been made free from sin live therein? Right? No, that's not what Yahuah is. That's not what this is. See, in Christianity, that's what they do. That's what they do. They go to church on Sunday, say I'm sorry, and go back after they leave the church, cussing, swearing, right? Committing fornication, lying, cheating, right? Right? Doing what they was doing. On Friday night, going out and partying. Saturday, going out and partying. Coming back on Sunday church. Praying and asking you to forgive them. Look, no, this is not that. This what we have. It's not that. That is profanity. They have profaned his name. They have profaned the name of Yahuah by profaning his Torah. By painting these images, by creating these doctrines, they profaned his name. He should be laying the grounds of repentance, not from dead works. You know, he should be doing that. You know, laying again the foundation. Laying again the foundation. Building up on sin again. By your continually willful disobedience. Coming to Yahusha, asking him to forgive you. Sinning, building. And all of a sudden you go to Yahusha. Yahusha, forgive me of my sins. Then you go right back to what you was doing. Building this foundation of sin. This should not be the case. He said, and repentance from dead works, stuff that you had did before it was dead. But you need to have faith towards Yahuah. You know, you need to understand the doctrine of baptism, the laying on of hands, the resurrection of the dead, the eternal judgment, he says, and this will I do if Yahuah permits. When I come to you, if Yahuah allows me to, I'm going to deal with you in these issues, right? But you need just to move forward towards faith in Yahuah and Yahusha. Right? He says, for it talks about it's impossible for you who have received the witness of Yahusha, right? Who have received and tasted of the holy Ruach Ha'Qodesh, partakers of the gift, right? Who have tasted the word of Elohiym and the power of the world to come, to fall away. To renew Yahusha to repentance. You can't do that. You know, you're going to pay for that. He says, which bear thorns and briars, verse 8, is rejected and nigh unto cursing, whose end is to be burned. You better understand what you in, right? Chapter 7, the order of Melchizedek, Prince of Salem, Prince of Jerusalem, the priest of the Most High Yahuah, who IVRIYM met returning from the slaughter of the kings and blessed him. How did he bless IVRIYM? He blessed IVRIYM with bread and wine. He was IVRIYM's high priest. He was a high priest of Yahuah. He did not have a beginning. He had no end. He had no mother, no father, no descendancies. He is like unto Hamashiach. And, you know, the Levitical priesthood paled in comparison to Melchizedek's priesthood. Right? Because you see, Melchizedek's priesthood was a sinless priesthood. Because he had to be sinless in order to be the high priest of Yahuah. Melchizedek was the high priest of Yahuah. Right? He was the high priest of Yahuah. Melchizedek had to be sinless if he was after the same order of Yahusha. Because Yahusha was sinless. And you know that sin passed on all flesh from Adam. Even those that came after the flood still had sin. Noah, his sons, Ham, Shem, and Japheth. IVRIYM had sin. But this high priest of Yahuah, who came and blessed IVRIYM, was likened in the likeness of Yahusha Ha'Mashiach. And Yahusha Ha'Mashiach was sinless. Yahusha Ha'Mashiach was a sinless high priest. So the Melchizedek priesthood that met IVRIYM, Melchizedek, king of Salem, king of Jerusalem, king of peace, king of shalom, right, of which Yahusha is, right, had to be without sin in order to be compared to Yahusha. Otherwise, he would have been compared to the Abraham of the Aaron priesthood. But Aaron's priesthood was flawed because it was after IVRIYM's seed. Melchizedek, he didn't have a father and a mother because he was Yahusha. Yeah, okay. I mean, I want to understand, believe it, but it's okay. It don't matter. He says, verse 7, and verily they are of the sons of Levi who received the office of priesthood, right, have a commandment to take tithes of the people according to the law. That's Hebrews 7:1. That is, of their brethren, though they come out of the loins of Abraham, right? So listen, they got to do this. They had to pay tithes, right? They paid tithe into Abraham, into the Melchizedek priesthood, while they were in the loins of Abraham. Yes. Verse 10. For he was yet in the loins of his father when Melchizedek met him. If therefore perfection, right, were by the Levitical priesthood, right, for under it the people received the Torah, right, what further need that another priest should rise after the order of Melchizedek and not called after the order of Aaron? You know why? I'm going to tell you why. Because in Hosea 4th chapter, right, he says, Hosea 4:6, my people are destroyed for lack of knowledge, because thou hast rejected knowledge. I will also reject thee, that thou shalt be no priest, no more, Levi, because you could not get the job done. Right? You shall not be no priest to me. Who established the priesthood? Yahuah. Who chose the high priest? Yahuah, as he chose Aaron. But he's declaring that, he says, I will also reject thee, that thou shalt be no priest to me. Levi, Levitical priesthood, right? Right? Seeing that thou hast forgotten the Torah. You forgot the order that was given to you by Moshe. The instructions, the cleansings, the washings, the sacrifices, the responsibility to keep the Torah before the people, to settle disputes, to handle the things that were required in the Torah. He says, you've forgotten the law of thy Elohiym. I will also forget your children, your Levitical children, your priesthood children, your sons and your daughters, your grandchildren, your Levitical order. It is going to pass away. It's going to decay. It's going to fade away. Why? Right? As they were increased, so they sinned. The priesthood. Though the priesthood number grew and grew, they sinned against me, the priest. Therefore will I change their glory into shame. I am going to take away the Levitical priesthood. It's going to decay. It's going to fade away because I have established a new order after the order of Melchizedek, Yahusha Ha'Mashiach. Listen. They eat up the sins of my people. They eat the sacrifices that the people bring. They devour the people in their sins. That's what the Pharisees and Sadducees did. And they set their hearts on their iniquity because they don't offer sacrifices. They don't correct them in Torah. They don't ceremonially wash themselves, and they don't people do it. They don't offer up the sacrifices the way you instructed them. He said, listen, I'm going to take away the priesthood from you. I'll have a new order, right? He said, listen, and there shall be like people, like priests. The people going to be just like you because you failed the priesthood. And I will punish them for their ways. The priesthood. I'm going to punish them. And reward them for their doing. The priesthood. For they shall eat and not have enough. They shall commit whoredom. And shall not increase because they have left off to take heed unto Yahuah. The priesthood will not continue. Now Levi continued, right? But the priesthood didn't. Yeah. Yahuah has identified Limba, right? They have the Cohen gene, right? So, they were the Levites. Right? They can't operate in the priesthood because Yahuah ain't established the high priest. It's been done away. Nah, let's say this. It has faded away. It decayed. Listen, That's why in Hebrews, he says, if therefore perfection were by the Levitical priesthood, for under it the people received the law. The priests weren't giving to the people the Torah. They failed miserably. They were flawed. If they was doing what they were supposed to be doing, what further need was there that another priesthood should arise after the order of Melchizedek, and not called after the order of Aaron, the order of Aaron, because Aaron's priesthood was flawed. Look, Hebrew, there's no way to turn back to Yahuah except through Yahusha's high priest, right? You got to accept the order, the shift, right? So, right? So in order to turn, you have to come to yourself, right? You got to go to the priest. So you got to have a priest. You got to go to the priest because he offers sacrifice on behalf of the sins of the people. You got to go to the priest, right? And the priest has got to be in a place where he has ceremonially washed himself according to the Torah as instructed by Yahusha. And he has to be that high priest, right? A high priest that Yahuah has chosen. Good luck with that. Right? So you got to have a priest. Then you got to have a high priest. And the high priest got to be able to go into the holies, the tabernacle. Good luck with that. Because there ain't one. You got to receive the witness. There's no other way, Hebrew. You got to receive the witness. You got to receive the witness. Listen. That's why there was a need for Aaron's order to be changed. He said, listen, for the priesthood being changed. Why? Because Yahuah got sick and tired of them taking the people and abusing them and abusing his sacrifices and his priesthood. Listen, they were whoremongers. Listen. They don't eat, they don't have enough. For they shall eat and not have enough. Listen, that's why even in Christianity it's not this. Because even preachers in these Christian churches, right, Yahuah is going to judge them because they're stinky. Right? They profaned his name. And they caused his people to go astray. Listen, you got these punk... Excuse me. I don't apologize. You've got these people, right, who are abusing the members of the congregation. They are abusing the members of the congregation. They are sleeping with the women. They are sleeping with the men. They are sleeping with the children. They have profaned it. They have taken the tithes and they've eaten them for themselves. They've built palaces. They've built houses. They've built castles. They have acquired cars. They have acquired planes. They have acquired all of these things. That's why this is profane as well. This is not that. There's nothing new under the sun. That's why Yahuwah's called me to wake up his people. He said, listen, you have to have my people to understand that they must receive the witness of Yahusha Ha'Mashiach, and they must receive the Ruach Ha'Qodesh, and it's not what they've seen. It's not what they've seen. And you know what their forefathers have done? And their forefathers, as a result of what they've done, because they listened to the priest, or didn't listen to the priest because the priest became wicked. I'm telling you, man, Samuel's sons were wicked. People started to complain to Samuel about his sons, the priest. Hophni and Phinehas, what's that priest's name? Eli. Right? Wicked. The Pharisees and Sadducees, Yahusha said himself, you are of your father, the devil. Wicked. That's why the priesthood had to be replaced. Listen. He says, for there shall be, well, no, watch this. For they shall eat and not have enough. They shall commit whoredom. They shall not increase. This priesthood is not going to increase, right? Because they had left off to take heed to Yahuwah's Torah. They were the stars. The Pharisees and Sadducees wasn't keeping Torah. They was ready to murder Yahusha. That's a violation of Torah. They was trying to kill Yahusha. That's a violation of Torah. How you gonna turn? Gotta have a high priest. And Yahusha Ha'Mashiach is that priest. All right. We gotta go. We gotta get off. 7. So we know, he says, for the priesthood being changed because it was necessary. There was made a necessity because they were flawed. A change also in the Torah. The change had to do with the priesthood. Yahuwah established a new priesthood in the Torah. He didn't change the Torah. He didn't do away with the Torah. The Torah is not obsolete. The law is not obsolete. The law is not done away with. Idiots. He changed the Melchizedek priesthood, the order of service. The order of service had to be changed because that's the process of establishing one in the Torah. You can't be established in the Torah without a method of being free from sin. You have to have established a method to be freed from sin in order to be established in the Torah. He had to change he had to change the Aaron priesthood because it was so flawed and jacked up, and it was causing the people to sin. It wasn't the law that was jacked up. It wasn't the Torah that was jacked up. It was the priesthood. And that's why he eliminated. But see, you know what? That's why Yahusha came, right, and sent his disciples forward with the Ruach Ha'Qodesh in this message, and they established a renewed covenant, a renewed testament. That renewed testament was for us in this day that we're in, so that we could make sense of the madness. In the Ruach Ha'Qodesh, you got to receive use of witness in faith. But after you receive the witness of Yahusha Ha'Mashiach, right, the witness, you have the Ruach Ha'Qodesh, which you've asked the Father for, and he gives it to you, right? Right? Everything else is going to be made. You're going to understand everything else because of the Ruach Ha'Qodesh of truth, which is going to lead you and guide you into all truth. See, but he had to have it recorded. You had to know what it looked like in reference to Yahusha Ha'Mashiach's witness in the earth. You had to know what signs are going to follow you. You had to know this. Because see, the Christian church, they profane this. Listen, they did a lot of stuff that was profane. And it's motivated by Ruachs. Ruachs, these, remember, they used to have them all the time. These big, Catherine Kuhlman, Benny Hinn's, this big evangelistical movement, you know, where they was praying and they was doing all these supernatural stuff. That was all fabrication. That was fabricated, right? But we believed it because they were perfectionists at illusions. They were musicians. They were magicians. They used the sleight of hands to get you to believe that what they were doing was Ruach, but it was not Ruach HaQodesh. It was Ruach, another Ruach. But see, this ain't that. That's why the signs has to follow us. That's why we have to be established in this witness, in this orders. The sign has to follow us. He said, listen, for the priesthood being changed is made of necessity to change also, a change also of the law, a change in the law concerning the priesthood, right? For he of whom these things are spoken pertaineth another tribe, right? Because Yahusha is the order of Melchizedek, but he is not Levi. Levi's priesthood has been changed to Yahusha's priesthood, the order of Melchizedek. For it is evident that our Adonai sprang up out of Yahudah, of which Moshe spake nothing concerning priesthood, right? But Moshe spake because he was given instruction by Yahusha. Yahusha. They gave instruction, right? They gave a word of how it was to be, which was the shadow, right? Right? They give attendance, right? But it's evident that it sprang out of Yahudah. Okay, let's go on to 8, because we still got a couple. I'm going to get through 8 pretty quick. All right, so he says, now we have a high priest, right, who's seated on the throne of high. We understand this. It's spoken of in 110th division of Psalms, right? He is the establisher of the sanctuary and the Shamayim, Yahusha, right? Yahusha sanctuary, and after the order of Melchizedek priesthood is a heavenly sanctuary. Melchizedek is Yahusha. Melchizedek is Yahusha. And Yahusha is Melchizedek's priesthood order after the order of the flesh, having received the witness. No, after the order of the flesh, after having been received approval of Yahuah, his father, right? Yahusha was sinless, not like Aaron's priesthood. He was sinless. Therefore, when he was raised from the dead by the power of the Ruach Ha'Qodesh, could enter into the Shamayim, and to the holies of holies in the tabernacle of Yahuah, to offer up sacrifices of sin. He could offer his blood up, right? So that's Yahusha's high priest. His tabernacle was constructed by him and Yahuah and the Ruach HaQodesh. They constructed the tabernacle in the Shamayim, right? But the tabernacle in the earth was carnal. It was made by man's hands, right? And it had to be sprinkled with blood to be set apart, right? Just like the priests had to offer sacrifices all the time. They had to sprinkle stuff all the time. They had to do this to set these vessels apart. Chapter 9. There was a need of necessity to replace the original covenant. Not the Torah completely, the order of service. There's no replacing of the Torah. It's a replacement of the order of service. The priesthood order. The replacement of the tabernacle. It was a shadow, right? The replacement of the service, the instruments, the priest, everything that had to do with it. There was a need for it to be replaced because verse 11 says of that 9th chapter, but Hamashiach being a high priest of good things to come and of a greater, more perfect tabernacle, not made with hands, but Mashiach, being come a high priest of good things to come by a greater, more perfect tabernacle, which he entered into in the Shamayim, not with man's hand, not made with hands. That is to say, not of this building, right? Neither the blood of goats and calves, right? That were sprinkled to sanctify the things which were unclean, that purified the flesh. How much so shall the blood, verse 14, of Hamashiach, who made the eternal, who through the eternal Ruach HaQodesh offered himself without spot, pure, sinless, purge our consciousness from dead works to serve Elohiym. The establishment of the renewed covenant, right? Now, chapter 10, Yahusha's sacrifice is sufficient. His blood is sufficient. So, notice how in chapter, right? He talks about the ministry. He talks about the priesthood order. He talks about how the order failed, how the priesthood failed, right? He starts out, He starts off with talking about the priesthood, right? And how Aaron's priesthood and the high priesthood, how it served the people, but it served the people being flawed, right? The priesthood, right? And then it talks about the perils of turning away from having what we've received, right? Well, Paul's painting a picture. Then he goes back into the priesthood and he talks about how the order of the priesthood was established, or the original was established like unto Melchizedek, right? And then in the 7th and the 8th chapter, he talks about the ministry of the sanctuary and the tabernacle, right? And how the orders of services was, right? And in the 9th chapter, he talks about how it's been replaced, how the original covenant is now a renewed covenant, and that covenant being the aspect of the Torah that dealt specifically with the Levitical priesthood, right? Because he's talking about priesthood things, right? So he's not talking about the Torah being done away with. These dummies. They're trying to say that the Torah in the Christian church has been done away with. That's not what this is about. This is about the priesthood order. And the priesthood, again, was the element to the Torah that caused the people to be established. They were the ones who kept the checks and balances and kept people in line with keeping Torah. If that's flawed, then the people are going to be flawed. Torah is always going to be perfect, right? But you're going to be jacked up. So you had to change it, right? So he talks about how, wherefore, when he cometh unto the world, he saith, of sacrifices and offering thou wouldest not, but a body you've prepared for me. So Yahuah did not desire sacrifices. Yahuah took away their sacrifices. Where is that? Hosea 2. Is that Hosea 2? Yeah. Hosea 2. He says in Hosea 2, he says, therefore I will return and take away my corn, because he was talking about Arami and Rama, right? They were two sisters, right? And how they had committed fornication, right? They were Israel. They were Yehuda and Yasharal and Yehuda, right? And they both created this lewdness, and they both committed whoredom, right? Their mother was a harlot. Well, he referred to her as being a harlot, right? And what it is a picture of Yasharal and Yehuda, right? And because of their sins, Yahusha says in that 10th verse, he says in that 2nd chapter of Hosea, and now will I discover her lewdness in the sight of her lovers, and none shall deliver her out of my hands, right? Because, Yahuah, right? What did he do to Yasharal? Right? He took Yasharal and poured out his fury upon her, right? He said, and in the processes, he says, I will cause her myrrh to cease. Her incense. Priest burned the incense. He says, I'm going to allow her myrrh to cease. Right? Myrrh was also a perfume or oil, right? But I'm going to take it away from her. Right? He says, and her feast days to cease. Take them away from her. Right? He says, her new moons to cease. I'm going to take them away from her. Right? He says, in her Shabbats, I'm going to cause to cease. I'm going to take them away from her. Right? And her solemn feast, I'm going to take them away from her. And I will destroy her vines and her fig trees, whereof she hath said, these are my rewards. These are my rewards. He said, you're gonna lose it all. That's what he did to us. He poured out his fury upon us. Right? Right? He poured out his fury upon us. It became dark. You know, Titus Vespasian came in and burnt the temple down and caused the race of the elect to be dispersed. Right? The world became darkened after the apostles. Became darkened. Yahuah took away their feast days. Took away your Shabbat, your stuff. He took it all away. Right? He took it away. And what happened? We didn't know. Right? And then all of a sudden, 400 years, the end of the 7th week, Yahushua roused up the lion from the prey. He roused up the young lion from the prey. He woke up the nation. He woke up the world, but he woke up the nation. Yasharal, Yahudah. He woke us up. Right? He woke us up for us to turn to faith in Yahusha Ha'Mashiach, to be established in this Melchizedek order. Right? And in that, he was restoring the feast days. In that, he was restoring the solemn feast, the myrrh. He was restoring the new moons. But listen, that's in Hamashiach. See, I can celebrate the feast days because they've been restored. And they're all still just shadows until Yahusha established the kingdom in the arets and restores all things. Right? Because right now, there are things that are under his feet, right? That Yahuah still has to restore, right? So when Yahusha establishes the kingdom, he's going to establish all of those things in its proper order. So right now, we remember them to the best of our knowledge. Because in the Ruach Ha'Qodesh, the witness of Yahusha, he's going to honor it. But if you don't turn to Yahusha, who are you going to turn to? And how are you going to establish a feast day that Yahuah has taken away from you? In order to be reestablished, you have to turn. How are you going to turn? When he has already indicated that he's established a new priesthood order. You ain't going to even be able to keep the feast days. You can't. Matter of fact, as far as Yahuah concerns, you keeping the feast days means nothing to him. If you haven't received the witness of Yahusha Ha'Mashiach. Because you're still in your sins. Bro, if you haven't received the witness of Yahusha Ha'Mashiach, you're still in your sins. You haven't turned to Yahuah. You know who you are, but you haven't turned to Yahuah because you have to turn to a priesthood that's established. And the only priesthood that is established is that which has been established in the Shamayim through Yahusha Ha'Mashiach. If this Besorah be hid, it be hid to those who are lost. If you can't receive this witness, you lost. Just go ahead and kick rocks. Yeah, that's my new thing right now. Just kick rocks. You know. Don't come to me with your madness. Just kick rocks. Don't try to convince me or change my mind. Kick rocks. I ain't the one. I ain't the one. And you know, I know it's right. You know, I don't get that, you know, trying to preach to me. Cause I'm Ruachal. You know, I have a righteousness and I have an authority that comes with Yahusha Ha'Mashiach. I don't debate. I don't argue. I declare what Yahuwah's words say, and you can accept it or not. And if you don't, you can kick rocks. Because I'm shaking the dust from my feet. Oh, yeah. Because you don't want to see the witness. I ain't got time to debate with you about the word. I'm going to debate with you about the word. I'm going to give you the word in the Ruach Ha'Qodesh. The Ruach Ha'Qodesh is going to convince you. If the Ruach Ha'Qodesh don't convince you, my debate ain't going to change nothing. All right. Hebrews 10. He says, wherefore, when he cometh into the world, he says, sacrifices and offering wouldst thou not, but thou hast prepared a body for me. A body hast thou prepared for me. Burnt offerings and sacrifices for sin thou hast now pleasure. Right? You didn't have no pleasure in burning animals. Taking the blood and burning animals. Yahusha went into the most holies of all with his blood. Right? In burnt offerings. Burnt offerings. Sacrifices. Burnt offering, and for sin thou hast no pleasure. Got no pleasure in that. Hebrew. You can get a lamb, kill a lamb, offer up his blood, and Yahusha ain't going to have no pleasure in that. You can't even do it. He says above, when he says sacrifices and offering and burnt offerings for sin, thou wouldest not neither have pleasure therein, which were offered by the Torah, the Mosaic order of the Abrahamic, excuse me, the Aaron priesthood, right? That part of the Torah, right? Then said he, lo, I come to do thy will. He taketh away the first and establishes the second. Yahusha said, I'm come to do your will. And you can get rid of that Aaronic priesthood. Aaron's priesthood. It's done. It's done. Aaron's priesthood is done. Right? It's done. Right? So, Aaron's priesthood is done. He says, now, we understand this priesthood that we have in Yahusha Ha'Mashiach. Right? Right? Having therefore, brethren, boldness to enter into the holies of all. Why? Through the blood of Yahusha Ha'Mashiach. Now we can enter in. Yeah, because now we are priests. Yahudah, who have received the witness of Yahusha Ha'Mashiach. We can go in as individuals into the priesthood. We can go in as individuals into the holies of holies in the name of Yahusha Ha'Mashiach. Having therefore, brethren, boldness to enter into the holiest by the blood of Yahusha Ha'Mashiach, by a new and living way, which he hath consecrated for us through the veil, that is to say, his flesh. Yahusha's flesh got us in the veil. Oh. A new and living way. Right? Yahusha is the way, the truth, and the life. Yahusha is the living way, which he has consecrated. That Greek word for consecrated is
Strong's G 1457, ekainizo.
Ekainizo. That word means to renew. It's to do anew again. Renew. To consecrate, to dedicate. Renew. Which he hath renewed. A renewed and living way, which he hath renewed for us. The way is new in that it's the Melchizedek priesthood, right? But it's a renewal of an established covenant. Through the veil, which is his flesh, and a high priest over the house of Elohiym. He's a high priest over the house of Elohiym, the tabernacle in the Shamayim. He said, let us draw near with a pure heart, with a true heart, and a full assurance of imunah, having our heart sprinkled from an evil conscience. Listen, I don't have an evil conscience. I don't have a desire to sin. I don't have a desire to sin. Because I've been purged. My consciousness. Body has been washed in baptism. His blood has purged my consciousness. The Ruach Ha'Qodesh in me, Yahuah and Yahusha, is now in me. They're tabernacling in me. Let us consider another and provoke one another in love, right? Now, we left off at the 26th verse. He says, for if we sin willfully after that we have received the knowledge of the truth, there remaineth no more sacrifice for sin. Point blank, period. See, in the Christian church, they support the willful returning to the sacrifice, right? They encourage that, right? Right. No matter how many times you sin, just pray and ask Jesus to forgive you, and He'll forgive you. They encourage this behavior. Right? But it says here, for if we sin willfully, right? After that, we've received the knowledge of having a high priest that has passed into the Shamayim after the order of Melchizedek, who has went into the holies of holies, who has presented his blood as a sacrifice for us, given us access within the veil through his flesh, right? Having tasted of the Ruach Ha'Qodesh, right? And the power of the world to come. If we willfully sin, after that we have received all of this of truth, there remaineth no more sacrifice for sin. There's nothing that can be done for you. See, that's why Christianity ain't this. See, that's why we have to fear in this. That's why we have to walk circumspectly in this. Because we can't sin. The desire for sin has been removed in your consciousness. But if you go back to that consciousness of sin, there's no more sacrifice for you. Right? There's no sacrifice. But a certain fearful looking for a judgment of fiery designation which shall devour the adversary. Listen, bro. Listen, bro. Upon having received this witness, and this is why even as recipients of this witness, right? You cannot make a decision to go back after having received this Melchizedek priesthood order and having allowed the blood of Yahusha to cleanse you from sin and allow his blood to gain you access within the veil, to have received the Ruach Ha'Qodesh of truth, which is the earnestness of your inheritance, that is going to give you truth and reveal truth, and that is the power of the world to come. that is in you, if you sin willfully, you done. You done. You done. You done. You done. That's why we can't let it slip. You done. There's no more sacrifice for you. See, in a Christian church, they would want you to believe that, oh, you can sin. Doesn't matter how much you sin. When you go to Yahushua, he forgives you. They crucify Yahushua fresh. That ain't gonna, no, that ain't gonna work. He said, what's going to be your outcome is but a certain fearful looking for of the judgment and fury and indignation which shall devour the adversaries. Because you are an adversary of Yahushua and Yahuwah. Oh yeah, if you willfully sin, after receiving this, you become an adversary. He that despised Moses' Torah died without mercy under 2 or 3 witnesses. Now, Moshe's Torah, or the law, right, under 2 or 3 witnesses, you were executed. You died. You were stoned. Right? How much sore punishment, suppose ye, shall it be thought worthy, who have trodden under foot the Son of Elohiym, and has counted his blood of the covenant, which he has sacrificed an unholy thing, and have done despite unto the spirit of listen, right? Because the Christian church will tell you that Yahuwah has grace and his mercy, and it doesn't matter how much you sin, he'll forgive you. Wrong answer. Now listen, right? Grace is Yahusha's witness. Grace is having received the witness, right? Being established in the Ruach Ha'Qodesh, having your conscience clean from sin because you have accepted Yahusha's entrance into the Shamayim, into the tabernacle, into the most holies and the holies of holies with his blood, right? And Yahuwah, the Father, not being angry because of what Yahusha done for you. Right? Right? Yahusha's blood. How are you going to escape judgment? See, the Christian church don't teach you this. Because the sacrifice of grace was a once for grace. The grace was for you to have received this witness, right, to establish you in this kingdom. Because you was worthy of death. That's why you gotta have the Ruach Ha'Qodesh, because without the Ruach Ha'Qodesh, you're gonna be thinking just like you thought in the Christian church. And you're gonna come over here in this awakening as if you're functioning the same way of grace in the Ruach, that the Ruach HaQodesh is established in this Melchizedek witness as they were teaching it in the Christian church. That's why they wanted you to go to their cemeteries. That's why they wanted you to get your doctorates in their religion. They wanted you to get that because they wanted to keep you twisted up in that. But see, with this witness, it's not that. This is not that. Listen. Be not deceived. Yahuwah will not be mocked. You are not going to tread. Verse 29. Oh, how much sore punishment, suppose ye, shall he be thought worthy who have trodden underfoot, who have willingly went back into sin and laid the foundation. There ain't no help for you. How much sore punishment? Listen. He that despised Moshe's law, who disobeyed the Torah, die without mercy under 2 or 3 witnesses. Moshe's law. The Torah of Yahuah. It was the Torah of judgment. How much sore punishment? Suppose, how much do you think you're going to get? How much do you think you're going to be worthy of? Right? How much? How you think you're going to escape? You neglect. How? Listen. Who have trodden underfoot the son of Elohiym, the Melchizedek order, the priesthood, who went in once and for all. Not once and for all so you to continue in sin. Not once and for all so you can go to him and say, oh, well, he's in there once and for all. You will forgive me. You will forgive me. You will forgive me. You will forgive me. You should forgive me. You should forgive me. Forgive me. You should forgive me. No. You willfully sin. There is no sacrifice. Now, let us establish this, right? To willfully choose to sin, or to willfully choose to practice sin, right? It's critical in understanding why the separation is so dramatic. Because if Yahuah has done all of this for you, and you receive this Ruach HaQodesh, and you willfully sin, you willfully go back out into sin. See, listen, that's why I listen. I love Yahusha so much. I love Yahuah so much. But I know if I go back out, he gonna kill me. Oh, yeah. I'm gonna, oh no, he'll kill me. I'm gonna die. Oh, yeah. He said, say that again. Listen, based on what he has done for me and what I don't want to understand, if I willfully go back out and sin, he gonna kill me. I'm gonna die. He said, my people need to understand the gravity of what it means to be established in this witness in the Ruach HaQodesh, and to what extent he has went to provide you this grace, this Yeshua. And if you tried it underfoot, you're going to die. Counted the blood of the covenant, wherewith he has sanctified. He was sanctified. He set me apart in the blood of Yahusha Ha'Mashiach. Now make it an unholy thing. And have done despite unto the Ruach HaQodesh of grace. For we knoweth him that saith, vengeance unto me. I will recompense. I am going to pay you wages, saith Adonai Yahusha. And again, Adonai Yahusha shall judge his people. Better listen, Hebrew. You better listen, Hebrew. A fearful thing to fall into the hands of the living Elohiym, but call to remembrance the former days in which ye were illuminated and endued a great light, a great fight of affliction. He said, listen, you better remember. Call to remembrance the former days in which after ye were illuminated, ye endured a great fight of affliction, partly whilst ye were made a gazing stock, both by reproach and affliction, but partly whilst ye became companions of them that were so used. So he said, listen, before you make a decision to do anything that causes you to go back, you need to consider the point in which you received this witness. The point in which Yahuah by the Ruach Ha'Qodesh illuminated you. The point in which you realized what Yahusha had done and what you were willing to endure. The affliction. Right? You were gazing stock. People look at you like, man, look at that man. That man look weird. What's wrong with that? He crazy. Just like Festus said to Paul, look, Paul, look, you crazy. You know, much learning has made you mad. Right? People look at you as gazing stock. I don't care what people look at me and what they say. I really don't. I really don't care. Listen, I drive Uber. I do it for like 4 hours a day. I do Uber 4 hours a day, you know, because Yahuah has given me what I need in that 4 hours a day, Uber, that I can continue to do this and meditate and do what I need to do in the Word for Him, right? But I don't care what these people see when they look. This is what I wear, right? Yeah, I go out with my friends. Yeah, I go out, right? In my truck, picking up people. Lady said to me, "Oh, I like your shirt. What is that?" I said, well, for me, it's Hebrew. Oh, Hebrew. Yeah, what's Hebrew? Hebrew? Yeah, people of Yahuah. His son Yahusha. Yeah, we're his people. You start to get too deep, they be like, oh, okay. Okay, but it's cool. But, you look at me and I don't care. I know what I believe. And I cling to it. He said, listen, you better hold on to it. You're going to be a gazing stock by reproach and affliction. And partly whilst they become companions of them that we were so used. Listen, you gonna have people who gonna be your companion, don't catch it because you associate with them. They associate with you, or you associate with them. He says, "For ye had compassion on me and my bonds, and took joy in spoiling of your goods, knowing in yourselves that ye have in heaven a better and a more enduring substance." So Shaul was locked up the majority of the time when he was writing these letters, right? And they took care of Paul, because Paul wasn't making nothing. Paul was on house arrest, so he needed somebody to kind of help him take care of him. But with that came the persecution of the Hebrews, Yeah, they persecuted the people because they was receiving the witness that Shaul preached, right? And Shaul was saying, listen, and you don't understand, you're doing this for me, right? For ye had companions, ye had compassion on me and my bonds, and took joyfully your spoil of your goods, knowing that yourselves that ye have in heaven a better, more enduring substance. I was locked up. I was in bonds. It's a house arrest. Right? And he had no means to make nothing, get nothing. He says, cast not away therefore your confidence, which hath great recompense of reward. Listen, don't cast your confidence away. You got to endure. You got to endure. You got to fight this fight. You can't just turn away from it because you're going to be lost. But you got to fight this fight, right? You got to endure patiently, right? He says, for you have need of patience, that after you've done the will of Elohiym, you might receive the promise. You got to patiently endure this thing. After having done the will of Yahuah, you'll receive the promise, right? Because the promise is given to us. The promise is Yeshua. The promise is Shiloh. The promise is rest. He says, for yet a little while, and he that is cometh will come and will not tarry. It's a little while, he gonna come. Right? I'm gonna say the same thing. In a little while, he gonna come and he ain't gonna tarry. He ain't gonna tarry. He ain't coming for no brood that have not received the witness. He ain't coming for no Gentile that has not received the witness. He's coming to gather those who have received the witness. You know, and I'm praying that it's in my lifetime. I really am. I'm praying that this witness of Yahusha's return is in my lifetime. So that when he appears and he changes me, you just don't know. I'm praying that it's in my lifetime. Yahuah, I pray that it's in my lifetime. If it's not, then it's okay, but I pray that it's in my lifetime. I pray that you allow me to see it. To enter into this rest, having been changed in a moment, in a twinkling of an eye. He says, for yet a little while, and he shall come, and he that shall come will come, and will not tarry. He says, now the just shall live by faith. Right? But if you draw back, my soul shall have no pleasure in him. So if you turn back, there's no pleasure. Now, Paul is saying, I'll have no pleasure in him who turn and go back willfully, because there's no more sacrifice for you. And no pleasure. He said, but we are not of them who draw back unto what? Perdition. See, because when you turn back to perdition. That word in the Greek is?
Strong's G, 684, apoleia. Apoleia.
Apoleia. Right? You turn back to destruction. To utter destruction. You turn back to destroy. That's why it's impossible for you to turn back willfully to this, because you turning back to destruction. And you can't willfully turn back to destruction. It's going to be your ruin. This destruction is consistent of eternal misery in Shiloh, in hell. Sheol, not Shiloh. Sheol. Man of Yah, woman of Yah, the 10th chapter of Hebrew has been completed. Yahuah, I pray right now in the name of Yahusha Ha'Mashiach that the words you have given me to give to them, they would receive them in Emunah, that you would quicken them, make them alive in this witness, that you would establish them as the people of Yahuah that have received the witness of Yahusha Ha'Mashiach. Yahuah, I thank you for the word, the Ruach, or word that you've put in me. Yahuah, I am not turning back to perdition. I am not turning back to destruction. I am not turning back to ruin. Yahuah, I have received this witness. I'm going to preach this witness. I'm going to declare this witness. I am going to tell Yasharal and Yahudah they must receive the Ruach Ha'Qodesh and the witness. I'm going to tell the grafted in Gentiles that they must receive the Ruach Ha'Qodesh and the witness. They must be established in this kingdom. Yahuah, I give you praise. I give you praise. I give you praise. Yahuah, let the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be acceptable in thy sight this day. You are my strength and my redeemer. Man of Yah, woman of Yah, called to greatness. Listen. Woman of Yahuah, beautifully and wonderfully made. Today Yahuah has favored you. You must go forth in this favor, established in the witness of Yahusha Ha'Mashiach, trusting in his Besorah, his Torah of truth, knowing that there is Yeshua in no other name. Knowing that there is Yeshua in no other name. There's no restoration in any other name. Receive this witness. Receive this witness. With that I say, listen. Shalom, shalom, shalom. Be blessed. Walk in the witness.
Torah Garden, speaking the absolute truth. Torah Nation.